Hi everyone. I wanted to do a quick video just to explain my thoughts on why it's so important to have an instructor, especially if you're starting out. If you're a beginner or an intermediate level player, it's very important to get instructor feedback, both good and bad, about how you're holding the sticks, the placement of your instruments, how your posture is, different things about your playing that aren't going to be apparent to you if you're practicing by yourself and you're learning from a YouTube video or something like that. There's many YouTube videos and other online resources that are great. Some are great, some aren't so great, and they're great for learning, but they're not going to give you the feedback that you're going to get from an instructor. And also, as a beginner, you're not going to know that you've gotten a good resource to look at. You could be watching a video by someone who doesn't really know what they're telling you, so you're learning something wrong right off the bat. So an instructor is going to look at your hand position. They're going to look at your grip. They're going to look at where your instruments are placed, the height of your snare drum, the angle of your snare drum, how you're sitting, the height of your stool. If you're playing drum set, they're going to look at where your hi-hat is, where your ride cymbal is, and where all the other toms or other cymbals and other instruments are placed, so that you get the best out of your experience. If you have a bad habit early on, it's hard to go back years later if you've been playing with a bad habit. Say you're holding the sticks incorrectly and you learn that way, and no one points it out to you until 5 years later, you're going to have to spend a lot of time, and it's going to be difficult for you to change, and you may never be able to change unless you have the proper motivation to be able to do so. If your grip is wrong or anything about your playing is not correct, you're going to hit a wall where you can't progress any further. You're not going to be able to play faster. You're not going to be able to play certain techniques that you might want to learn. And sometimes if you start out with your snare drum set at the wrong height, it's impossible for you to play correctly. You should be relaxed. You should have no unusual angles. You shouldn't be holding up your elbows. Everything should be relaxed. And as you sit down at the drum, or if you stand at the drum, you want to make sure that where you put your hands are going to be at the spot that's comfortable for you, and you're not doing any kind of compensation for where your placement of your drum is. Also, with your sticks, you have to hold your sticks properly. If you don't, and you learn the wrong way, it's going to be so much harder for you to correct that. So you're going to run into problems later on, and you're going to have to stop working on the things you want to work on to be able to correct your old habits. So to avoid all that, if you find a good teacher right off the bat, when you're starting out, they're going to look at you, they're going to observe you playing, and they're going to point out your stick position, they're going to point out your grip, they're going to point out where your instruments are, and they're going to help you to change the things to be able to not develop bad habits. And as you progress through your advancement, you're going to be able to continue to get feedback. Sometimes bad habits don't start right off the bat. You may develop a bad habit. Maybe there's something that you're learning and it's a little bit uncomfortable for you, so you might try to compensate by doing the wrong thing. An instructor is going to correct that so that you can not create another bad habit, but correct it right off the bat and learn properly so you can do it correctly and get on to the next step. In addition to being beginner and intermediate level players needing a teacher, your journey through learning how to play a musical instrument is never finished. You always have something you can learn. You will never get to a point where there's nothing else you can learn. You can always learn from other people, and it's very important, even as an advanced player, to keep either taking lessons, maybe they're not weekly lessons, maybe they're one lesson here and there with a drummer that you like. If there's a famous drummer that you like, it's important to maybe contact that person, see if they're interested in giving you lessons. You can possibly take 1 or 2 lessons from them, even if they're not a teacher, just by sitting and observing them, sometimes getting feedback from them, or just talking with them can improve your playing a lot. You can also learn, advanced players can learn from others who aren't necessarily drummers. A drummer can sit down and have a discussion with a cello player and learn something that they haven't thought of, learn a different way to look at a piece of music, or maybe something that they would try that they wouldn't have tried otherwise, looking at it from a perspective of a drummer. You can talk to people who aren't musicians. You can talk to artists. You can do all kinds of ways. If you have the mindset that you want to learn and you want to apply what you learned to your drumming, you can learn from almost any area that you would find yourself in. So it's important to have instructors at all levels, but beginner and intermediate students need to have somebody that's watching them and guiding them on a weekly basis or a bi-weekly basis, or some kind of regular interval that they can correct mistakes, guide them into the right direction so that they can learn properly and not have to redo things later. So you can keep progressing and moving forward. So those are my ideas on why you need a teacher. If you would like me to give you lessons, you can contact me through Facebook, cell phone, or email. So look forward to seeing you around, and good luck in your drumming endeavors.